Hey, my name is Daniel Pimentel, Assistant Professor of Immersive Media Psychology at the University of Oregon School of Journalism and Communication. Technically, I'm Daniel's wildlife equivalent, Daniel Pimentel. Yes. Bad joke. But I'm here to talk to you humans, about a very serious issue and how your technology can potentially address it. 1,389. That is the estimated number of animal species currently labeled as threatened by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. And despite the magnitude of this threat, research suggests that public apathy towards the plight of wildlife, like myself, persists. Now, the reason for this human-wildlife gap is not easily explained, but much of it can be attributed to psychological distances between you and myself. Humans are just less motivated to help when threatened beings are far away, unfamiliar, and facing threats that are not immediate to them. So, what can humans do to forge those connections in lieu of direct engagement? Well, you can seek nature out, but there are limitations to that. You humans are spread out and all don't have the same access to zoos or marinas where many of my kin are. And even if they do, the types of interactions they can have with wildlife, especially threatened wildlife, are very limited. You can do what Charles Foster did when he chose to live amongst wildlife alongside badgers and foxes, or take it a step further and do what Thomas Thwaites did and actually become a goat man. While these experiences forge bonds with wildlife, they're not practical and certainly not scalable. Trust me, Daniel tried becoming a koala. It's incredibly uncomfortable. So, how can you forge human-wildlife connections at scale? Cross-reality, or XR, is a promising solution. Augmented, virtual, and mixed reality platforms afford you, humans, the unique opportunity to engage with virtual representations of wildlife, like me, in ways that feel unmediated and authentic. Specifically, Daniel's work argues that we can use these platforms to engage in interactions with wildlife and also allow humans to become wildlife. Using AR platforms such as Snapchat, users are able to have direct interactions with vulnerable wildlife, such as sea turtles and penguins. In this example, you can see how audiences are able to start a sea turtle nest in their own home, help a hatchling navigate to shore, and share a selfie with the rescued creature shortly afterwards. In this other example, AR is used similarly. Users see a threatened penguin affected by an oil spill and are then tasked with rehabilitating it in their own sink, adding a layer of personalization and enhanced sense of presence. Using virtual reality, we can shift from the human realm to the natural biomes associated with the particular species at hand. Here you can see a user in VR traveling to Antarctica to the site of a simulated oil spill, where they are able to rehabilitate these penguins. Some of them, I think, are my cousins. But anyway, this approach further reduces the human-wildlife gap by bringing you, the human, to the victim's habitat. While these mediated interactions with wildlife have yielded promising results, including driving pro-environmental attitudes and conservation behaviors, organizations leveraging this strategy need to be mindful of several things. For one, soap can wash oil but not biases. Research shows that people feel more concern for larger rather than smaller wildlife, for example, even within the same species, and even when these animals are virtual. Second, be careful with anthropomorphizing animals, like me. I mean, you're literally doing it right now. For many, it may be the first interaction with a particular species, and this first contact sets expectations and associations with that creature. How do you, the humans, balance engagement with the experience with scientific accuracy and genuine representation of the creature? More importantly, how do you ensure that mediated interactions do not lead to undesirable, real-world behaviors towards the actual wildlife? Now, what about me and interactions as wildlife? Currently, I'm feeling what is called body transfer, the illusion that this penguin body is my own, and this embodiment can have a profound effect on how I, human Danny, spoiler alert, view the group I'm embodying, in this case, penguins. Moreover, my research through Project Shell, a VR experience where users embody threatened loggerhead sea turtles, show that experiencing environmental threats during embodiment significantly influences environmental attitudes, connection with the species, threat perceptions, and ultimately shapes donation behaviors towards biodiversity efforts. In a nutshell, get it? What happens to our virtual bodies can shape how we view those threats and how important they are to us after we remove our headsets. We can leverage that visceral experience for good, surely, but there are definitely things to account for. For one, we need to understand more about embodied trauma and how encountering threats during embodiment shape real-world outcomes. Second, we can't assume that embodiment guarantees empathy. Research on human embodiment shows how embodying outgroup members can backfire and lead users to distance themselves from the victimized group. This is all not to say that XR-based interactions with wildlife do more harm than good. It's just a cautionary tale about the negative side effects that may crop up if we, as a collective of engineers, environmentalists, storytellers, don't approach the creation and deployment of such experiences with an appropriate amount of care, consideration, and ethical know-how. With that in mind, stay wild, my friend.